The way that I teach memoir is very different to most writing classes and workshops. The reason this matters to me is because very often a memoir or a biography is the only book that you will ever write. There's so much about memoir that is just not taught in academic courses and programs. Hi everyone. If there's one thing that I would love every memoir writer to know, which is going to change the way that you look at writing your draft, revising it and submitting it and going through this whole process, because often a memoir is the only book you ever write. I wish that every memoir writer knew that publishing is a business and your personal story has two things that need to be considered to bring it up to publication standard. It's not like this for any other type of writing. It's not like this for fiction. It's not like this for general nonfiction. It's not even like this for narrative nonfiction, like an investigative book or an exploration of a historical topic. Memoir is personal narrative, and it is absolutely crucial that you understand this before you start the submission process, because I see so many writers either self-publishing or too confused and baffled by traditional publishing, or being demoralized by the whole process. Also, hiring editors, having very painful critiques and workshopping the draft until they've lost all interest in the story and all momentum because it's been years since they started. So these two things that only apply to memoir, personal narrative, are A, the stuff you have to write to transform on an inner level and actually understand what the story means. That is a whole process of its own. I teach that process in The Art of Memoir so that you can actually experience the positive benefits of memoir writing, because it is an incredibly empowering psychological process when you do it the right way. It's harmful if you don't do it the right way. So that's one piece, is understanding that there is a way that you need to write the draft for transformation and healing and the positive benefits, and there is the material and the draft that you need to consider from a business perspective for publishers, because publishing is a business. And this is what I see so many first-time writers, sometimes it's the only book they've ever written or wanted to write, not even considering, is that publishing is a business, and a business relies on sales. So you need to show in that draft that it has what it takes to sell in that category. And memoir is a very specific category, okay? Memoir needs 6 particular elements in the story. If you're not a celebrity, you're not a world famous Kardashian or something, or a tennis star, if you are like me, and this is exactly how I wrote A Letter from Paris and sold it in a week, you need to show these 6 crucial elements in the manuscript and in yourself as an author if you want that to sell and you're not a celebrity. Because publishing is a business, and businesses and what sells in particular categories in business follows patterns. It's all been done before. And I studied so many best-selling memoirs, not just best-selling memoirs, but the highest grossing movies of all time, because I was ferociously determined to master what it took to turn a true story into a sellable manuscript, because I did not want to let this go. I was like a dog with a bone. I just would not let it go. And I knew that I was determined to sell my memoir manuscript. So if you want to know what those 6 elements are that actually sell a memoir manuscript when you're not a celebrity, I have a brand new free class about the 6 story star codes that are crucial if you want your memoir to sell. And you also need to understand that that memoir you've been writing, that perhaps you've started and stopped, that's a process of its own. But publishing is a business, and all businesses, you just look at what has sold in that category of the business, and that is how you go about constructing your product. And a book is a product. And the thing is, publishers and agents, if they reject you, they're not rejecting you because it's not personal. When you understand this piece that publishing is a business, you start to see those rejections from agents, or those complete silence, or that really common one that I hear all the time, oh, memoir's really hard to sell, which is not true. It is basically because the publisher or the agent cannot see in your draft or your submission or the way you are presenting yourself how this is going to sell in the market, because bestsellers in the market category all display particular patterns and themes. And I'm taking you through each of the 6 story star codes that will sell your book in my new free masterclass. But you've got to understand that writing to heal and processing material and workshopping an experience is something that you do on your own, and it is separate from the publishing industry and the publishing business. So if you want to actually sell your book, if you want your memoir to be read by more people than your close friends and family, or 200, which is the average sales of a book, and you want it to be an actual bestseller, you want agents and editors to not be able to put it down, I invite you to check out my free masterclass where I take you through the 6 story star codes that are going to transform the way you see your story and make this book sellable. Okay, because publishing is a business, and you as a writer, you need to create a product that fits the market category for what sells. And memoir is extremely unique. I teach you the entire start to finish process inside the art of memoir. This is why I'm so passionate about teaching it, because often a memoir is the only book that a writer will ever write or want to write. I know for me, A Letter from Paris, it's my 2nd published book. I decided I would be happy if that was the only other book that I ever wrote and had published, because I wanted to do it properly. And I know this is a strange metaphor to share, but if you see these roses next to me, I bought those roses 2 weeks and 4 days ago. I had seen roses for 15 and 20 and 30. And these ones were long stemmed, but they were just so healthy. And I bought them and I've had them for 2.5 weeks. They've been fresh and happy and strong. Now, what's that got to do with memoir? Well, I see writers paying for little bits and pieces of the process, a workshop here, a critique of the draft there. I'll just try and piece it together and I'll just bang out a draft and send it out on submission. The reason this matters is because I want you to do it properly the first time. I want it to last. I want you to have a quality book, a quality product. I want you to get the value from everything that you invest in. And I know for me, when I choose quality, when I choose things intentionally, it all pays off in the long term. So you've got to think about this from what is going to be the best in the long term for me. These roses, they've lasted 2.5 weeks. I could have just settled for the first ones that I saw. I went to the extra effort because I wanted them to last. That was a bit of a sidetrack. If you would like to learn how to write a compelling memoir from start to finish, even if you've taken other workshops and classes before, my program is a complete program to bring a memoir to submission standard for the high standards of the traditional book publishing industry. I take you through exactly what you need to put in that draft for it to sell, and to have the positive transformation and not make yourself miserable by writing. It's the complete process. Sign up for the Story Star Codes if you haven't seen it already. This is information that only 1% of authors actually know and grasp, and that's why only 1% of authors get published. So sign up for the Story Star Codes if you haven't seen it already, and that will take you through exactly what's included in this new offering for the art of memoir. Even if you've seen it before, it's all new, more support than ever. So take a look below, the link will be there, and I will see you soon.